welcome to Building Success series with Nick Ainis, author of Building Success, The Art of Real Estate Investing, and Building Success, Start a Business, Grow a Business. We're here to break down real estate investing, business growth, and making money. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real strategies from experts and insiders who have built success. If you're ready to level up and create wealth, you're in the right place. Let's go! How you doing?
I think you love that part, eh?
Let's go. You know what I do when I say let's go? I think about how would Don Cherry say this? Let's go.
Well, there's lots of people who talk like that. Anyways, things are good. We're doing another double header here, and we have an amazing guest, Paul Farberman.
Okay, before I introduce Paul Farberman, who's joining us live from the streets of Copenhagen, Denmark, which is amazing. Wow. How do you, when you do back-to-back, we just did an episode of Building Toronto Skyline, and now we're going to do an episode of Building Success.
How do I do it?
Like, you literally change hats, but do you change your approach?
No.
Is anything else change, or just your hat?
No, it's just the hat. It's really all about the guest and having a great conversation. So I just have to, it's kind of like in between, it's kind of like tiring, but then you get into the conversation, it gives you tons of energy. So,
well, you're going to have a good combo today.
Because, that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to have an amazing discussion with Paul, who's probably recognized me as a celebrity, but was too
intimidated.
No, he wasn't intimidated at all. But he's, so Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing great over here in Copenhagen with a good friend of Mike, Snow, Darren O'Brien from Toronto for a big festival tomorrow night.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. So now we know why you're in Copenhagen.
That's why I'm here. Well, it's actually in Malmo, Sweden tomorrow night, but we're across the bridge.
Oh, well, you got a party in Copenhagen, right?
There you go, Friday night.
So, Paul, Mike introduced you to the show, and really appreciate you coming on because you're a super successful guy, and I'm very honored to have you here on my show because you know a lot of celebrities, and you've had an amazing career through the years, and I'm honored and humbled that you're here.
Well, honestly, I'm honored, Nick, to be with you. Mike's told me about you a little bit, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here today.
Good. And before we get into it, did you know Ozzy or Hulk Hogan? Did you ever bump into those guys ever?
The only time I never Hulk Hogan. The only time bumped into Ozzy, we were staying in the same hotel. I was literally, it was called the Moscow Peace Festival. Mm-hmm. It was at Lenin Stadium in Moscow. I was over there. This is a long time ago with a friend of mine from Toronto, who was there were 5 founding partners of Trivial Pursuit.
Oh,
and
wow.
we were over there to launch Trivial Pursuit in Moscow, in Russia.
Wow.
And it just so happened there was this Moscow Peace Festival with all these rock bands, including Ozzy, and I had a chance to meet him at the venue and at the hotel. But that was the only time I've really ever had the chance to really meet him at all. That was a long time ago.
And Hulk Hogan? No, you didn't meet
never
him.
Never met them. Yeah.
Well, we lost 2 amazing people this week. And,
yeah.
It's very sad, and they were icons in their own right. And so because you know so many celebrities out there, I thought I'd ask you that question.
Well, obviously. This is Building Success, Nick. I have a question for Paul, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you invest in Trivial Pursuit?
I did not, because it was I only met them after it had already got started. But you guys may recall it's something insane. Like if you invested like a really small amount of money, you made not 10, like the return was ridiculous on those investors. It was a huge success.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unfortunately, I was not part of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I guess we're here to talk about all the successes in your life, and I'm sure there's a few failures in there too, maybe a couple. But You've had an amazing career, and I don't even think we can capture it all in 1 hour or 45 minutes, 50 minutes. But I did see an amazing picture that you went to Woodstock too. Is that right?
Yeah, I was 16 years old. I mean, I've always been a great lover of music, and what really tipped me over the edge. I mean, I loved music, but I was a real huge Neil Young fan.
Oh wow!
And when they announced that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, that was the first time that they would ever play together live. I said, I have to get there. And I went with a few friends from Toronto. One of my friends had a photographer's pass from this underground sort of hippie paper out of Ottawa. And he left after the first day and gave me his pass.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was literally on stage, in front of the stage, backstage, met some insane people and had an insane time.
Well, that's great. Is that something that maybe started you out in your career? Is that
yeah, I mean, I was still in high school.
Catalyst?
So that was, no question. It was like, wow, I want to be part of this somehow.
Well, that's great. So tell us, tell us a little bit about how you got started. And I know you were a lawyer. You went to Osgoode Hall.
Right.
What was Toronto like back in the day?
In the music world, full of incredible energy and more than ever, like camaraderie between the artists, cooperating with each other. It was like, everybody wanted success, but they would work together. There was a real spirit of cooperation, a great local scene. I mean, there still is in a way, but it was such a different time and such a smaller community in a sense at that time.
Yeah.
And everyone, of course, was striving for that, big success in America. And some did, some didn't, but there, from that era, there were some, incredible Canadian artists who went on to some incredible success that I was able to see at a young age.
When you went to law school, why did you go to law school?
I went to law school not because I had any passion to be a lawyer, but when you're a young Jewish kid growing up in Toronto, your parents will tell you, "Well, go to law school, go to medical school." Like,
and so you said, okay.
If I can get into law school, I'll get in. So I got in, and that was it. And even because my passion was music, I was at Osgoode. At York University, I still took a music jazz performance workshop, not for credit, but just, to continue my interest in music. There really, at that time, there was not any courses in entertainment law per se. You might be able to learn a little about copyright, patents, trademark, but not extensively. So when I graduated, I was able to do some work. There were only not even a handful, maybe 3 lawyers in Toronto who were doing entertainment-related work in any major way, and I was lucky enough to work with one of them and go out on my own.
Well, that's great. So that's you. So I actually same thing with me. I went to my dad said he was a real estate guy, and he goes, I wanted to get into advertising. He said, no, architecture. I said,
yeah.
Okay. You listened to your parents back then, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or face their wrath in a way that you don't.
Yeah, my dad was ruthless. So, so I went to architecture school, and the rest is history. I went in the construction business, and I started my own construction and development company. I like talking about housing, but I also have a passion for, I guess talking to people and I guess building success, building a business, I'm very entrepreneurial spirited. And I guess I want to hear more about. So you worked. So when you got out of school, you worked in the entertainment industry in Toronto, and there's only a couple of guys. You learned off one guy at the beginning, at least.
Yeah, well, yeah. In the very beginning, I was still living at home, didn't have a job, and there was a friend of my sister's who was doing entertainment lawyer in Toronto named Ed Glinner. And he didn't need anybody. He had one partner, but he had this house that's you guys might know it. It was at 120 Avenue Road, right next to Soto Avenue Road in Davenport.
Okay.
And it was used to be the offices of Paul Hoffert and Lighthouse, the group Lighthouse,
Right.
were in there. And they had moved out and left a bunch of stuff in the basement. And Ed said, "Hey, Paul, if you want to, there's a desk down there. If you want to move in, I don't need you, but I'll pay you like $100, a week or something, just to maybe you could do a few little things." And it was like, well, okay, I'm not doing much, else, so I'll do that. And as luck and time would have it, not more than a few months later, his partner left. And instead of going to find someone else, I said, "Paul, come on upstairs, have a real office, a real desk, and let's get to work." So
That's amazing.
yeah, and it's just, an example of that many people have done. When you're young, especially starting out, you got to take chances. You got to maybe do something for free sometimes, work something for free, learn, make connections, and just take chances. And, if something doesn't come on, but move on. But, that was one of those things where just, luck and timing. And all of a sudden I was doing the real thing.
So we're learning already about success and what young entrepreneurs should do. Take some risks, and
absolutely.
And sometimes you don't have to look at money right off the bat.
No, absolutely, and that's been true. An experience that I've seen a few times through my career where you really got to consider
and
what's worth it and what's not.
And you have a very long career, and I'd like to hear more about it. So what did you do after that?
So I had a different perspective on the business than Ed, the lawyer, who gave me the chance there. And I decided I wanted to carve my own path. So I left.
Right.
And opened my own office around the corner at Yonge and Davenport near Yoso's restaurant there. And I was just sort of this young, brash kid thinking I can do it on myself, but just doing pretty much music-related work. And that was the time that I was friends with these local promoters, the Garys, and because I was friends with some other people, I managed to work with the Garys and arrange the police picnic, and arrange the financing, arrange the talent with the Copeland brothers and everything. And that was while I was on my own. So I was sort of being a lawyer, being a promoter, and I was loving that. And then one of the other big music lawyers in Toronto, a guy named William Hinkson, was looking for someone to join him. And I said, "Great, let's join forces." And that was great because now he had clients like Rush, and Tom Cochran and Red Ryder, and
very cool.
Triumph, and Jim Carrey, and it was crazy. We had some really good clients, and so I went to work with him.
When was that? When was that? About 70s, 80s? What was it?
70s, early 80s, late 70s, I guess it was. Yeah.
Nice.
And then I went to one day. Bill and I were just going through our receivables, and we were thinking, this deadbeat owes us that money. This deadbeat, and I well,
deadbeat. I like that word, deadbeat.
There were a lot. We met a lot of them
back in the day. I guess there are a lot of deadbeats.
Yeah, there still are, but yeah.
We don't call them deadbeats anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, we're worse. We call them douchebags now. Douchebags.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that Sony Music had been looking for someone to head up their legal department because their guy who had worked in there left, and it was about 3 months that job was available. They hadn't hired anybody, and I wasn't interested because I was, this young kid at law school fighting for artists' rights, and me going to work for CBS Records. That was like the big corporate world that I was fighting against. I'm the champion for artist rights and everything. But this one night, after the frustration of all the money people owed us, I said, maybe I should speak to Bernie. Bernie DiMatteo was the president of CBS. And I went in, he offered me the job that day, and I said, you know what? Sounds good. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back to doing what I was doing. But I never went back to private practice after joining CBS.
Wow.
And then if you want to talk about the most incredible luck and timing in my career, I guess, I happened to be at the company when we signed a young girl who didn't speak English named Celine Dion.
Yeah.
I say luck and good timing because it wasn't immediate, but some years later I eventually went to work full time with her and her husband Renee Angelil as part of the management team with Dave Totel and a great group of people.
And so that was, and I think you had a future in later on with them as well, another sort of career path with them. We're going to get to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So were you making, in those days, were you making a lot of money with CBS at the time? Was that big bucks?
Not really. It was certainly well paying and expense account, and I was, young and living a pretty good lifestyle. Yeah, but
So
nothing. It was a salary, but didn't have.
It was a job, and
shares
a
or both. Yeah, exactly.
So you started off like that, right? And
that's right. Yeah.
Did that expand to anything else, or eventually like shares or anything like that, or no?
No, did not. And they just don't operate that way. They like to keep all the profits.
Yeah, no kidding. So, but there is something to say that because I've been I've worked for developers out there, and but I just said, look, I just want to do this on my own, and there is something to say that you can build a lot of connections working for other people, and it's something that people should consider at some point. But and
that definitely aided me when I decided, at some point to go work only for myself and not for a company. The connections and networking that I'd done and through the years really became a big help. Yeah. And
is that where you met most of the people that you're kind of your network of people? Did you meet a ton of artists in CBS?
No, not really. That really happened more when I went to the States. But working at CBS, there was a big worldwide convention in Vancouver from senior executives from CBS Records all over the world. It was then had already become Sony. And it was there that I met a guy named Jay Boberg and Miles Copeland from IRS Records in Los Angeles, and became friends with them. And they offered me a job to come work down for them. Miles Copeland was, of course, the brother of Stuart Copeland and Ian Copeland. Stuart Copeland being the drummer of the Police. Miles was the manager of the Police at this time. He was now managing Sting's career when I was working for him. So he had the record company. He was managing Sting. So I went down to LA to work for them that was my move to LA. That was a full-time job working for Miles Copeland.
And that's where you made all your major connections, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yes.
Well, my next job again it's luck and timing and knowing people. Our offices, Miles' offices, were on the Universal, Studios lot. Why? Because Universal, the record company, was distributing the IRS record label.
Yeah.
And I met people at Universal, and one day, the head of the music department for Universal, who had become a friend of mine, named Bert Berman, his business affairs guy left me. He said, "Paul, why don't you come work for me?" I said, Bert, I know a lot about the music business from a record company, but I don't know anything about film and TV. And he goes, don't worry about that. You'll pick that up. and so all of a sudden, I'm now fucking working at Universal Pictures, working on Steven Spielberg movies and all working on the music with John Williams and James Henry, the biggest composers in the world. And it was kind of like a dream. Almost. I was like pinching myself. It was like, I'm just this little kid from Toronto, and now I'm sort of in the big leagues, in a small way. But,
yes.
So I was involved in doing, the music deals for all the composers and licensing music and soundtracks for all the movies at Universal.
So you met some incredible people during that time, and
incredible people, yeah.
And how do you keep in touch with a lot of them right now to this day, or some of them?
Some of them, for sure. Some of them, absolutely, yes. Yeah.
And when did you make? So when did you start making big bucks? Was it at Universal? Where was it?
Well, it kept getting bigger every job, but then after Universal, I went over to 20th Century Fox to do the same job there. Worked on the Titanic deal and everything.
Oh,
and
wow.
that's when, and all this time that I was down in LA, I'd become very, very good friends with Renee and Celine.
Oh,
They were
great.
always they'd always come down to LA to do a recording session, to do a video shoot, a TV show, an award show. So many reasons. We'd always hang out, and and so we would joke sometimes about one day we're going to work together, and sometimes seriously talk about it. And it was just around the time of Titanic. Me and Renee were having breakfast one day, and he said, "It's time you came work for me." And I said, "Great." And so I left Fox, and they were thrilled for me. I was, not just quitting. I was quitting a job to go work for, one of the biggest artists in the world, and they knew her because it was, again, crazy. It was in my last days at Fox that the deal to have her sing "My Heart Will Go On" happened.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was still an employee of Fox working on that with Renee and Celine.
Well, that's amazing.
And then became a big part of that story.
So what did you guys do? Did you guys go and what was it like to hang out with those guys?
With Renee and Celine?
Yeah. Did you go out for dinner? Or did you go like?
Yeah, there are no finer people. I can't say enough good things about Renee and Celine. They and the entire team that they built around them, Dave Patel and Barry Garber and John Delp over at Sony. I mean, everybody. It was a true family, and they treated everyone like family with respect and class. Can't say enough good things. And I was lucky enough to join them at the height of her career, and tour all over the world, and be like a fantasy of being on private jets and staying in the five-star hotels. It was just like
amazing,
crazy. Yeah, but I never took any of it for granted.
What about? Are you married, or did you have wife and kids at any of this time, or?
I got married. I got married when I was working at Universal. Yeah, before I went to work for Renee and Celine. And I have I'm divorced, but I have three wonderful daughters who I'm very, very, very close to.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I have twins, Sarah and Emily, and they just turned 22 last week, and an older daughter who just turned 25, Lauren, and very close relationship with all of them.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because, if you're traveling all over the world with Renee and Celine, it must take a toll on family life sometimes. And
and that certainly may have been part of the reason that things ended up, with our divorce. It's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's some when it comes to being successful, there's also you're dedicated to that, and things your lifestyle changes, and you can't be with your family every day.
Yeah,
and sorry to bring that up, but it's part of
it's
part of the
life.
path. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I guess one small example of Renee and Celine's commitment to everyone who works for them. They know how hard it is on the road, and that all the crew and the band, they're away from their families, and it's not easy, in and out and eating horrible food. You get to the venue and it's just, the local catering company. So they didn't have to, but they spent the extra money to hire this incredible company called Snack Attack out of London, England, to be on the tour. It was like, I don't know, 5-6 people. And they were like private chefs. So they cooked the meals every day for the entire cast and crew. And the band, just to make sure they could have at least something good when they're on the road.
Is it a tough lifestyle to be on the road all the time like that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it looks to the fans all glamour, and I'm not saying it's not fun and not glamorous, but there's the other side to it. It's a job, and it's hard work.
Yeah,
particularly for the band and crew, it's hard work.
Yeah, so would you say that was the height of your success, your height of your career working for Celine and Renee?
It was by far the most enjoyable time of my life in terms of any of the other people I worked for, things I did. But then, in terms of financial success, that really came after, because then I became independent and I could work on things. Not just, getting paid as a job or as a salary, but doing things, that I wanted to do, working out deals, whether, the upside is whatever you can, make by being entrepreneurial in different things.
Well, and that's where you started making a lot of, and again, it's not necessarily about always making money. It's having a passion or loving what you're doing, and and I guess you've built those connections over time, and that's something that drove you to wanting to be this entrepreneur, I would imagine.
Yeah, and one other lesson I'll mention that I learned along the way of my career in terms of that money's not the be all and end all, and you got to be careful. When I was working at Universal, when the job came up at Fox, I loved my boss at Universal. I loved the job there. I had no interest in leaving, but the job at Fox was offering $50,000 more salary, and this is 20 years ago. I mean, it was a lot then. It'd be a lot now, but it was even more then. And my boss couldn't do anything. He wanted, he's a good friend. He said, I can't do anything to increase it. So I went, well, I'm going to Fox, same job, looks like a great thing. And I got to Fox, and while I loved my direct bosses, there were some people there I just didn't get along with. And I thought, wow, if my boss, Harry, at Universal would have called me back and said, hey, Paul, the guy who replaced you is not working out. Please come back, but I can't pay any more money. I said, Harry, I'll be there tomorrow. I would have left and gone back.
Yeah, there you
go. And the lesson is, Jenny, when you're at a job and you're thinking about leaving that job, the job you're at, the players, your boss, the people you're interacting with and working with, the ground rules. You go somewhere else, you have interviews, it seems, wow, magical, great, fantastic, more money. You get there, and it's just not the same as you may have thought. Yeah. Hopefully it is. But if it's not so, you just need to really, really think hard when you're thinking of switching jobs. A job. If it's for money, think long and hard. Is it worth it?
Yeah. Sometimes I always used to ask myself, the grass is not always greener.
Not always.
Yeah. So usually when I left a job to do another job, it's really because there was nothing there for me, and. So the project finished or something like that, and I had to move on to another project. That's usually when I left, or I saw the writing on the wall. And I said, now's a good time for me to move because this project's coming to an end, and it doesn't look like they're developing anything else. So, so you would have those lulls in the in construction and stuff like that, and that's what we did. And at some point, I always had this inner desire to start my own company, and I had no money. Basically started off with small jobs, and at some point 5 years later I landed a $50 million project, and that was my first big project for Fusion Corp, and I can pretty much build anything now, and now I need investors. That's why I'm calling you today. You can give me your no, I'm just joking, but no, it's I guess we all have this. I used to watch these biographies on A&E and that show, and I was dreaming about being an entrepreneur at the time. So I took the plunge, and I love what I do, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything. But it's tough sometimes. It's really tough. And
because everything's on your shoulders.
Yes. And we're having a tough time in the housing market right now. The condo market is dead in Toronto, and so it's tough because some projects get shelved, and then you have to find something that's going to keep your company moving, and the only way to do that with our construction business is to get projects,
right?
And that's what we're doing every day. So you had this. So you were with Celine, and then afterwards you went on your own. When was this?
It was Celine's husband, Rene, died of cancer. It's about 8 years ago, I guess now. And it was just before he passed away that I left. And it wasn't my decision to leave, by the way. Rene knew he was dying. It wasn't, he was being treated. And the financial people were restructuring the company, and they made a lot of cutbacks and decided, they didn't really need to have me on the payroll anymore. I again, because they're such good and generous and kind people, I left on very, very good terms. In fact, when he did pass away a few months later, I was one of the people Celine called and asked to speak at his service, which I did. And I remained in very good terms with Celine and her people, and I'm proud of that. And I was at the screening premiere of her last year of her documentary in New York. That she was there too. So yeah, I stay in touch with her in her camp, and it's a nice thing. But then I was on my own, so I was like, okay, what do I do? And I've done a lot of different things working. I do what I want, work for who I want, and take advantage. And I guess that's where it came in handy. For having worked for such a world class artist like Celine, and having lived in Los Angeles and worked at high profile positions at Universal Studios, at 20th Century Fox, etc. I got to know a lot of people, and I shouldn't forget, besides that, when I stopped working for Renee and Celine, I had time in my hand until I was getting things started. And one of my dear friends is a guy named Ken Ehrlich, who for over 30 years, I guess, had, among other things, produced the Grammys every year. And being a good friend, while I was working even with Renee and Celine, he would always give me a all-access laminate credential to attend the Grammys, be backstage, go wherever I want. And the first year I wasn't working for Renee and Celine, and the Grammys came up. I said, Ken, I appreciate it, but I've got time on my hand. Maybe I can do a little work for you. You don't have to even pay me. I mean, I just, he said, well, let me speak to Ron Facilities, his producer with him. And they said, so I did a few little things, and they paid me because they're not going to not pay.
Yeah.
But from then on, for about 6-7 years, I worked every year on the Grammy and all the Grammy tributes that the Grammys and CBS did, like tributes to the Beatles, tributes to Elton John, tributes to Stevie Wonder, tribute to the Bee Gees, to Prince, etc. And at all these shows, I got to meet and develop relationships with the managers, agents, publicists, lawyers, whatever, of all the talent that would be on these shows. And that has come in very handy for me.
Wow.
When I need to contact some of these people for business. So yeah, it's all the sort of relationships and contacts that I built up over the years have come in incredibly helpful when I'm on my own, when I need things. And I do a lot of work for people internationally from Europe, from Asia, who don't have the connections I have. They want to get in touch with someone and they don't know them. I do. So, they'll pay me a flat amount of money and we'll work on a deal. And I get a percentage of things, develop. So, yeah, my contacts have come in very handy. And the other advice I would have to people, young people, sort of really young people, just, trying to get there is, sometimes people maybe make fun of me and say, oh, Paul will go to the opening of an envelope, because I go out a lot everywhere. But that's how I made a lot of contacts, by networking and being out there. And I always say to people, if you go to this conference or this seminar, I can't guarantee that it'll be worthwhile, worth your money, or that anything will come of it. But I can guarantee that nothing will happen if you sit home.
Yeah.
And to young people who can't afford to go to some of these conference seminars, you can just go to the hotel lobby where it is, and you still might have an opportunity to somehow mix with people you would otherwise never get a chance to. So you just got to get out there, hustle, network, and things come of these sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's true. Very true. And you know what? You did kind of like a free gig for the Grammys once, and it opened up a whole bunch of doors for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
There you go.
Paul Farberman, producer Toronto Mike here. You mentioned the Celine Dion documentary. I watched this documentary. There's a scene in this documentary when Celine Dion makes a phone call to a woman on her 100th birthday. Did you see this scene?
Well, of course. What it was when my mother, 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, turned 100. I said to Dave, to tell Celine's manager, Dave, if you're sitting around with Celine, you know, and just got your iPhone, pull it out and just say, maybe she can say, hey, Dorothy, happy 100th birthday. She did and sent the video. Of course, I showed it to my mom and family. I never posted it on social media and didn't send it around anyone because that was something, you know,
Personal.
private that Celine did for my mom. Absolutely. But for some reason, I don't know how or why, but it's in the documentary. I knew because David told me, but I didn't see the movie until I was at the premiere screening at Lincoln Center. And so it brought a big smile to my face when, you know, the scene is you hear Dave saying to Celine, okay, Celine, it's time now to make that little message for Paul's mom's 100th birthday. And Celine goes, okay, and you hear her go, hi, Dorothy, it's Celine. You know, I want to join Paul and all your family, wish you his birthday. And it was very heartwarming. It was also heartwarming because at the time, you know, Celine was having certainly health issues, and I know she wasn't doing anything at all. She's been, now in the last year or so, she's been out there attending more things and functions and doing better, it seems. But she was doing nothing. So number one, I was really grateful to Dave for even asking her. Like, he didn't have to.
Yeah.
And more heartwarming that she would actually, you know, it'd been 6, 7, 8 years since I was working for her, that she would do that. It was very kind, and that's the kind of person she is.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Very touching.
Yeah.
Mike told me about that. I'm sure he had to. That's his way of getting into the show here. But
Paul, what do you think? Does this podcast need more Toronto Mike or less Toronto Mike?
There's never can be too much Toronto Mike. Come on.
Paul, you're being too nice. I'm going to say no. Keep him out of the show because we're having a great time here.
Nick just muted me.
No. We're joking around. But yeah, no, that sounds amazing. And so let me ask you this question. So, you know, I guess not everybody. By the way, you know, it's amazing that you had your mother for 100 years. That's incredible.
Yeah, she passed away this year at 102.
Wow, that is that is so amazing.
Very, very, very lucky indeed.
I lost my mom. She was 79, almost 80, and
wow.
But it's, you know, it's a sad thing. I guess whatever age you're at, because you remember the fond memories and everything. And there's a part of you that's you know, that's who you are actually.
No question.
And it hits you hard, but yeah. So what's it like with all these? You know, a lot of people want to be celebrities, right? You're behind the scenes. You know a lot of people. What's it like working with all these people? I mean, people are people at the end of the day, are they not? Or is it? It's definitely a different world, though, for sure.
It's hard, I think, for music artists, actors, athletes, when they're very young. Many of them come from not, you know, a lot of money or background, and all of a sudden the success and the money that getting thrown at them is just overwhelming. And as we all know, some of them handle it really well and some don't. And it's sad to see how many don't, whether it's in the world of sports or entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing and nice when, you know, knowing some people who are just so humble still and so gracious and treat everyone that way. But yeah, it's difficult, you know, especially when you're very young and you get all that money.
Well, it can be a very dangerous, earth-shattering experience because I think, you know, if I think about it, you got to be very strong psychologically, because it's really when people start talking negatively about you that it really, really hurts you.
Yeah, and I think there are a number of successful people who will acknowledge that if they had the money they have now when they were a young teenager or early 20s, it might not have handled it as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's yeah. And then
I think there's a maturity. Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Ed.
I was going to say, I was just going to say, in my experience, the ones that are really successful but seem very grounded and they're not in the tabloids all the time, are the ones who come from good families where they have good, close relationships with their parents. And it's where they come from broken homes or it was separation, or they're not in touch with one of the parents. It seems to affect them, unfortunately, in a negative way. But when there's a good, strong family values and ties, those are the artists that seem to come through life better.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a maturity thing too, as well. Like you have to be able. Like I'm not famous. Well, not amazingly famous, but I kind of known in the industry a little bit. But I guess the best thing to do is not really to care as much as to what people say, what people think. You have to sort of just say, I'm going to put my message out there, and I'm not going to care who looks at it, who's saying this positive or negative or whatever the case may be. You just got to get your message out there and focus that this is what I want to do. This is what I want to convey to people, and just get your message out there. Be who you want to be. Don't care what people think. And, I mean, obviously you're always looking for good results and stuff like that, but, you can never be intimidated by, success or being famous or celebrity. And again, I haven't experienced amazing being a famous person or anything like that. But, I would say that would be a good, I guess it could be, if things go wrong, it's tough. And
I know this sounds like a ridiculous generalization, but, having lived half my life in Toronto and half in Los Angeles, it's a gross generalization, but Canadians, as a general rule, are nice people, and a lot of the big Canadian stars I know, they are down to earth and humble, despite them being some of the biggest stars in the world.
Right.
There is something in the water in Canada that keeps us all a little more grounded, I feel.
Well, that's a great thing about Canadians, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about some story that you'll never forget. Something like the most incredible story throughout your career. Could be fascinating, could be good, could be bad, could be anything.
There's definitely good and definitely bad.
What's one story you'll never forget?
I mean, it has to be, I guess, to single out to one, and certainly Mike knows about it. Me being so involved in, the Titanic song "With My Heart Will Go On," because, I mean, that song
was huge.
That song was so big that on Celine's album, that album worldwide has sold, I believe, over 30 million copies. I also think that I'm pretty sure the soundtrack of James Horner's score, which is only score from the movie, but also includes that song, is also, if not 30 million, pretty close to 30 million.
Wow.
So that song is on 60 million albums. I'm willing to bet you could count on all your fingers the number of artists in the world, I'm talking the Beatles, Rolling Stones, whoever, who have sold more than 60 million albums. That's got to be a small club. But what's interesting was to be such a part of it, because I was saying before, I was working at 20th Century Fox. I did the deal for James Horner's contract to score the movie, and I gave them notice I was leaving to go work for Celine, and I'm sitting at my desk just working out my last few days, and James Horner's agent, Michael Gorfin, calls me and says, "Paul, James has now finished the score for the movie, and now that he's finished it, there's a theme that is there crying out for a song." So he called his lyricist, Will Jennings. They wrote a song we would love to play for Celine. So at this point, James Cameron, the director, has not heard the song. John Landau, the producer, no one has heard the song, because James Cameron, in making that movie, was very insistent, being an historical drama, that the only music in the movie was original score and whatever that little orchestra was playing as the ship was going down. But no Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, big song, didn't want that. So they didn't know anything about this. They said, "Can we play it for Celine?" Okay, so I call Renee, and they happened to be in Vegas. This is long before, her residency with Vegas, but they always had a love of Vegas.
Yeah.
Renee would just love to go gamble. Celine would go with her parents, sit by the pool, and just enjoy Vegas. So they happened to be there, and I flew into Vegas and sat in the hotel room, Renee's room, with just Renee, Celine, James Horner, and his agent, Michael Gorfain. Horner played the song at the piano, sang it. They were told what was going on. And Renee said, well, okay, why don't we have Celine do a demo? And they said, well, we didn't come here to ask Celine Dion, one of the greatest artists in the world, to do a demo. And Renee, who was so intuitive and so smart and sharp, said, look, if James Cameron is going to hear the song, let him hear it with Celine and decide, not with a demo singer.
Oh, wow.
And there have been people who said it's true. Celine was kind of rolling her eyes. She didn't really love the song. And, but okay, she would always go with what Renee was saying. So anyway, she did the song, of course. It was far from over, the story. That movie opened in Christmas, but in August of that year, there was a screening. We had a screening of the movie in New York. The executives from Sony, Renee and Celine, were there, all of our team. James Cameron was there, and the producer, John Landau. And at the end of the movie, I mean, Renee and Celine, they were crying over things. We had a meeting the next day at Sony, and they were not convinced that she should do the song. The movie we saw was about 20 or 30 minutes longer than the final version. It was still long. And if you had paid attention to the industry variety and the magazines of the time, all you were reading about when that movie was being made was it's a real life disaster. There's fighting on the set. It's so over budget. This movie has no chance of success, zero. And that's what the Sony people thought. But Renee said, no. We're going with it. They were so touched by the romantic story. And even though that was the case and Sony had it, it was still not planned to be a single. They never did release it as a single until the movie came out, Christmas. John Delp, the executive at Sony, called me on New Year's Day to say, Paul, where is Renee? Can you find him? We're trying to reach him. The song's exploding. And
wow.
And then, of course, it exploded and became what it was. But it was just to be such a integral part of being in that room when she heard it for the first time. And part of that was, certainly a highlight of my career, no question.
Well, that's an amazing story, actually. I think Mike and I have goosebumps here. That is amazing. So we're going to kind of wrap it up here, Paul. And is there any advice you give to any type of entrepreneur out there? We've got a lot of lessons out of this. Do some work for free. Don't always think about the money. Grass ain't always greener, but I guess the move to Fox worked out for you too. Give some inspirational advice to young entrepreneurs out there, people who want to start something on their own. Let's hear it.
I think you have to believe in yourself and believe in your heart, because there's going to be your parents, there's going to be friends, there's going to be people who might be jealous of what you're doing, whatever, or say, oh, you're crazy, that's a harebrained idea and scheme. What are you thinking about? That's not stable. You have to take everything in, but ultimately you have to believe in yourself. You know yourself better than any of these people do. And look, if it doesn't work out, try something else. But you just got to believe in yourself. Go with your gut. Go with your heart.
That sounds great. That's great advice. Funny, I should... Anyways, the funniest story is that I listened. I wanted to do something in the environmental business. I was ready to pick up garbage on the street, and my mom said, "Don't do it." But I listened to her. I finished school, but I had the entrepreneurial spirit back then. And then eventually I worked, and then I decided to go out and do something on my own. But go ahead.
But someone we both know, Teddy, did pretty good in that business.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they did.
You know Teddy, right? You know Teddy.
Yes, I do.
I know. Everybody does.
Anyways, Paul, it was awesome to hear from you, and I hope you'll pass this video along to all your famous and successful network out there. And
all right,
Mike, we got to get Snow on the show. No?
How's my buddy Snow doing, Paul? He's doing okay over there?
He's just chilling out in the room right now.
Oh man,
it's hard. A long flight over hits him harder than me. He just sent me a note. He says, Paul, how do you do it? How do you do it?
Yeah, traveling's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know. I just roll with it, you know.
Good for you. Good
Give
for
him
you.
a hug for
Yeah.
me. Give him a big
I will,
kiss
you
and a
bet.
hug.
You bet.
Thank you, Paul. Great show.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Nick. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Mike.
Nice to meet you.
And thank you for listening to Building Success Series with Nick Ainis, a podcast breaking down real estate, investing, business growth, and making money. Proudly brought to you by Nick Ainis Enterprises. Please share, like, and subscribe. See you again in 2 weeks.